Welcome to the English Homemaker podcast, a podcast where we discuss all things home, a realistic but fresh view of homemaking from the suburbs of the south of England. I'm your host, Alissa Evelyn. Welcome to episode 25 of the English Homemaker. Hello, everybody. How are you today? I hope that you're having a great day, no matter where you are or what you're doing when you're listening to this, whether you are driving the car or you're doing the washing up or cleaning the bathroom or maybe doing some journaling. I don't know what you might be doing, but I'm really grateful that you've tuned in today. Thank you. And I am hoping that you are well and happy. So today's episode, I'm very happy, is episode number 25 because I'm going to be talking about Christmas. More specifically, I'm going to be talking about Advent and the Christmas season. And I have a really important message I'm going to start with that I think if you listen to nothing else of the podcast, I hope you listen to the next couple of minutes because it's super duper important and something that keeps coming up in conversations with friends and in my own heart, my own mind. And that's just to remember to be intentional about what you choose to do this season and to be okay to say no. In fact, this is my permission slip for you to say no to something that you just don't want to do. I think Christmas gets crazier every single year. And there are more and more things that you could do, more opportunities, more, I don't know, Father Christmas's laps you could sit on, more toys you could buy, more foods you could make, more traditions you could start, more classes you could go to, more wreath making workshops. There's just more and more and more. And it really struck me. I went into Sainsbury's about a week ago and not only was the car park almost completely full on a Friday at 2 p.m. when it would have normally been quite full, but maybe about sort of like half to 2/3 full. Not only was it totally rammed with cars, but it was also just piled and stuffed. It was stuffed like a crazy thing, full of gifts and decorations and food to buy and poinsettias and just, it was piled really high to the point of it going past the idea of just being beautifully abundant, and it was just way too much. Like it was shoving it down your face, like you need to get a poinsettia, you need to be getting a tin of sweeties, you need to have a wreath, you need to have all of these special Christmas cheeses. And it was like, actually, I get to choose. I get to choose for me and my family what and how I want to celebrate Christmas. And we must make sure that we don't let external pressures, whether that's from Instagram or advertising or our family, decide for us what and how we spend the season. It can be really, really simple. And I think my favourite Christmases actually, and my favourite things about Christmas are the simple things. So let that be your permission slip to say no to yet another Christmas drinks or another thing at school that they're asking you to bake something for. It's okay to say no, but be intentional with your yeses as well. So work out what you do want to do from a positive place, how you want to serve the people around you and what you're going to do and what it means to you, and just say no to the rest of the stuff. You don't have to do it all. Yeah, just do what's important to you. So for us as a family, and me in particular, my favourite thing about the Christmas season is Advent itself. I love the lead up to Christmas. It's when I usually have my most precious moments, my most special times where I feel the most warm and cosy. And I really don't like days that are filled with expectation. I'm not great at them. And I feel a lot of pressure from myself, not usually from other people actually, but it's usually from myself to not get it perfect, but to deliver all of those traditions. It is a lot, and also to carry that weight of joy, I suppose. I don't know, it sounds kind of wrong, but I think as the homemaker in the home, it is your responsibility to be the one holding that torch for Christmas, that joy, that festive spirit, and kind of transmute it to everyone else that joins in on that celebration. And if you are so burnt out from the lead up to Christmas, or you haven't set your spirit in the right kind of direction, then I've often found myself getting to Christmas and just being too burnt out or being poorly and not able to do I don't know, just rest and enjoy the day. And it can just become this kind of crazy cooking, cleaning spree and a mad opening of presents and not much else. So not only will I be making the day itself intentional and the days around it, but for me, it is about this soul nourishing Advent, this season before that really gets you in the right mood, the right mindset, the right soul situation, and sets you up for the year ahead as well. I don't love going into the new year feeling really frazzled from all of the December things that we've got to do. So this year in particular, we've just been super intentional looking at the diary, adding one simple thing to the weekends before, and just keeping it super simple, seeing the people we want to see, going to the places we want to go, doing the things we want to do, and there's really just a small amount of them. We are very flexible with traditions. We're trying not to hold on really tightly to everything we've ever done, and keeping it very flexible to everyone can choose a thing that they enjoy about Christmas, and we'll try our hardest to make that happen. So for the kids, that might be Christmas stockings or having a duck at roast, or maybe it might be going on a walk on Christmas Day. For me, I love going to see a show, so we've booked a Christmas show to go and see, which I'm really looking forward to, and having things to look forward to rather than dreading. Christmas season and Advent shouldn't be filled with things that you're dreading, like, oh, I've got another something to go to. It should be full of things that you're actually anticipating and looking forward to, and that will do you good. That might be a bit of a surprise shock to all of you, and some of you that just sort of grit your teeth and bear the season. I'm also aware that there are those of you out there with a much greater capacity than I have at present, or different age children, or no children, or just a different life situation where you can fill the weekends with lots of things, and maybe that brings you loads of joy, and that's your intentional choice, and that is also wonderful. So don't hear this as a message of slowing down is the only way, but I think for lots of us we probably need to say no more, especially us Brits, because we're not always the best at saying no to stuff. We always just want to make everyone happy, and we don't want to let people down, do we? But I think there's a nice, kind, polite way of doing those things, and I think it's really honouring to your family and to yourself to actually look after yourself during this season, especially when there are so many viruses and bacterias going around. We do actually really need to look after ourselves so we're not all poorly at Christmas. Can you tell that's happened to us a few times? Yeah. In all honesty, a couple of years ago, it got to about the second weekend of December and I was already spent. I was done. I was ready to cancel Christmas. It was too much. There was too much going on in my brain. There was too much going on in the world around me. It was just too much. And I think we had a couple of things planned that weekend, and I just had to be like, no, we're cancelling everything this weekend and we're going on a family trip weekend away. And we did, and it's still one of the favourite Christmases we've ever had. We drove through snow on our way to Devon for a really short weekend and just got to be away from it all. And that was really fabulous, but it's not hugely sustainable because that was expensive, and doing last minute things is always expensive. And also I love being home, and I didn't want to run away from it, and it's sort of how it felt like it was happening. I just put too much in the diary. There was just too much going on, and I hadn't allowed enough time for nice, slow, gentle things and everyone to have a breath. It was almost like I decided, okay, we've got 30 Christmas DVDs and we must watch one every night now until Christmas, or we won't get through all of them. And then we've got 30 Christmas books and we have to do the same with all the books. And it was just, it was too much. I'd embraced the too much mindset and I hadn't been intentional with it. And so all Christmases following, it's got to be intentional, because Mummy has to get to January the 1st with her brain on and functioning. So before I go into a bit more detail about how I really nourish myself during the Advent season, I would love to recommend you to go back and listen to episode number 14, which was my Christmas episode I did with my brother, which is called, I think, Choosing Joy and Restoring Christmas. It's a long episode. as are most of the conversations with my brother, but it talks a lot about how we grew up, the Christmases we've had in the past, how he celebrates Christmas in Sweden. It's a really rich episode, and I'd love for you guys to listen to that if you haven't yet. And then following along from my last podcast episode, A Glorious State of Disarray is what it was called. I have done a home tour video on my Alissa Evelyn YouTube channel, which I'll make sure is linked in the show notes. But you can go and check that out. I do a full home tour, every single room, every single bit that's piled high with books that need organising and toys that need organising and things that have yet to be done. But it's looking really good, and I'm really happy with where we're at right now. I think we've got the painter coming next week to do our bedroom, so I think most of Advent will be very gloriously spent in the guest room upstairs or downstairs on the sofa bed by the TV, one or the two or both. So we've got lots of little cosy nooks to cozy into for the Advent season, which will be really fun whilst our bedroom gets redecorated. So very excited about that. So now I want to talk about some of the ways I am nourishing myself, my soul, my body, my mind during this winter season. And I am going to say it's winter already because, quite frankly, midwinter is just before Christmas and that's not very far away. And we've also had our first snow day. So on that basis, I'm going to proclaim it is winter before December the 1st and suggest that you should be looking after yourself as such. So one of the most important things I've done for myself is to plan out my meals. That is not going to come as a huge surprise to most of you that know that I do meal plan, and when I don't, everything goes wonky. Everyone in the house feels not quite right because I haven't really thought it through and I'm kind of making it up as I go along. So one of the things I love to do is to sit and write a meal plan, and I find actually in the winter them to be tremendously easy. It's mostly like meat and potatoes and maybe a pudding at the weekends, and that's probably an apple pie with custard that I make from scratch. And it's just really, really simple. I find cooking in the summer to be a lot more tricky, to like keep it light and keep it fresh and keep it interesting, and it not just be salads because the kids don't love salads. So in the winter I use the slow cooker a lot. There's a lot of pies and lasagnas and big heavy foods, and you're probably all agreeing with me and nodding in the background that it's easier to cook in the cooler months than it is in the hot ones. So soul food for me always starts with a good breakfast. As you know, I've got a whole episode dedicated to breakfast. I love breakfast, and in the winter it's the best kind of breakfast, isn't it? Again, all the hot ones, rice pudding that you do overnight, really slowly prepared porridge, egg and toast and marmalade, homemade yogurt with homemade granola. Oh, okay, I could probably go on for a whole episode just about winter breakfasts, but let's not do that. Soup for lunch pretty much always, and some of my homemade gluten-free sourdough, and with a lot of butter, lots of fat lashings of organic butter. And then for dinner, like I said, it's usually sort of like meat and potatoes, or something in the slow cooker, something stodgy and delicious and full of fat and protein. We really try and avoid sugar at this time of year, which can be really, really tricky, especially, when it starts about Halloween and the kids, there's just sort of sugar everywhere. Even though we don't trick or treat, somehow there's still sugar everywhere. I think maybe everyone else is sort of trying to palm it off on us or something. I don't know, but it's a really sugary time of year, and we try really hard to avoid that. One of the ways we've really successfully done that this year is we bought a box of persimmons from an organic grower in Spain via crowd farming, and that's been oddly like the most special thing to have. I keep it open on the table. It feels very abundant. It feels really luscious. The kids understand where it came from and who grew it and how precious each persimmon is. And so we've been having sort of like one a day each, and there's still 4 left, which is quite impressive because they've been out for a couple of weeks now. But that has meant that the kids have been gravitating towards that before anything else, because persimmons are really very sweet and super delicious. So that's really helped that, and also just making obviously my own things. So I make far breton most weeks, and then an apple pie, like I've said, most weeks. And then that usually staves off the sugar cravings. And I make those with like honey or maple syrup or coconut sugar. And then really trying to make sure the kids have protein at all meals, including breakfast. So eggs are really a thing that we try and have every morning at the minute. So the other things to nourish your physical self is just like warm drinks. I've mentioned that in so many episodes. I need warm drinks all year round, actually, to keep my body feeling grounded without sounding too like woo-woo with that word. But I think that's the only word I can use to describe how it makes me feel. It just helps me settle and helps my body feel safe, maybe, helps regulate me in some way. I wish I had more words that were there to describe how amazing just a cup of herbal tea is to me. And so I've got a lovely selection, and in the amazingness that was the cupboard almost coming off the wall and all my glasses falling out, which they didn't, thankfully, almost, I got the opportunity to reorganise that cabinet, which meant I've actually made that into a bit of like a tea, coffee, hot chocolate station. So I've yet to buy some marshmallows and put those in a jar, but it's got like the cocoa powder, maca powder, some honey, 2 giant jars of honey, including one very lovely one my friend bought me from the Czech Republic that's gorgeous, some vanilla extract that I make at home, and then a little bit of salt is always by the stove anyway, but that's how we make our hot chocolates. So the kids know where everything is and they can do that all themselves. We've got a little kind of like tiny little frother thing that they love to use to make the hot chocolates. So it's just sort of nice that that's now like a more official station for hot chocolates because it's that time of year. And then I've got all my teas lined up in a section that are really easy to see and grab, whichever one I fancy at the time, whichever one I feel in the mood for, feel like my body's requiring at the time. So that's also a really lovely thing. The other thing I've been doing is making things ahead of time where I can. So I've already made mince pies and those are already in the freezer. So I've actually made my own mince pies for a really, really long time, probably since I was about 22, 23. So a long time. I just don't really like shop bought mince pies and they have so much sugar in them, and with my type 1 diabetes it was always a no-go. But I love that I love a little sweet pie. and there's sort of not many other desserts I can have this time of year. I can't eat Christmas pudding, there's too many carbohydrates in it to inject for. And basically most other desserts this time of year are just super duper sweet. So I got into the habit very many years ago of making my own mince pies, and now I still do that. This year I've tried a slightly different method. I made them up and I froze them before I cooked them. Usually I cook them and then I freeze them, so you just have to sort of reheat them. But this time I thought, let's try it the other way around. So I froze them in the tin, and then I've taken them out of the tin and put them so I will put them obviously back in the tin to cook them in. I'm quite excited about that because I think they might be a little bit, crisper, nicer, feel a little fresher or something. So I've done that, which is a nice sort of, anytime you do anything ahead of time, it's just this big gift for yourself that you've done something to think about yourself before. It's like a little hug from your past version of yourself saying, you matter, you're important, I will look after you. Another thing that I've already done is, as soon as I could tell that it was getting darker so much earlier, I bought 2 sets of battery operated timer lights that I have wound up my stair banister. And they are so happy, they're gorgeous, and I love them, and they were not expensive. They're like on a copper wire, and I just wound them around the banister, and my goodness, does it bring me great joy. I don't have to touch them either because they have a timer that is super simple but functions brilliantly. It's on for 6 hours and off for 18. So they come on at about 4, go off at 10, and then repeat that every day until the battery dies, which it suggests is about 60 days. They are absolutely lovely. I will link those in the show notes if you're interested. I got 2 pairs. I think they were like sort of £7 each or something. And yeah, I've had them up for about a month. So it feels sort of festive, but at the same time, it just gives me great joy to have twinkly lights in a hallway that is otherwise really very dark. The other thing that I spent autumn doing is making beeswax candles. I spent a whole day just dipping some dinner candles. It's super easy. It's taken me a couple of years to get them in a way that I actually enjoy them and we can functionally use them. I think the first year they were too thin and they burned too quickly. I needed a slightly different thickness of wick. And it's just taken a little while for me to understand how they work. I'm sure every year they'll get better and better and slightly less Shrekier wax kind of looking shapes. But we love the homemade candles, and the ones we made this year are burning for quite a long time, and yeah, they look really, really great. And obviously having beeswax candles anywhere in your house is very, very good for the air, but it's also so good for you and your soul and your heart. Another very, very basic thing that I've done already is I've got out a Christmas jigsaw and it's on the table, and it's just a reminder to everybody, but mostly to me, to just slow down. I don't have loads of stuff I need to do right now. This is something very important that I need to do. And I find doing a jigsaw or a puzzle, whatever you want to call it, to be really like a meditation. It can take me into a place that is incredibly relaxing, and I don't find it stressful. I know some people find it stressful, so some of you think, why on earth would you do that this time of year? That is too much. But I just sort of keep it out and I do a bit here and there, and sometimes I sit for a good couple of hours and just while away time. And I find so much of the time I feel like I want to spend on my phone trying to work out what thing I'm supposed to do next, and the jigsaw is there to remind me I don't need to do that, and I can just sit with the lights on with a cup of tea, maybe something on in the background, some Christmas music. Maybe my husband's there and he's having a beer and we're just having a bit of a date, and it can just be this incredibly slow, just relaxing thing to do. And like I said, I find it really meditative. I don't meditate. I find that really challenging to put myself in that state. But there are I've always found that with the kids as well, there are certain things and activities that we all do naturally that are in themselves meditative. For my son, that was playing trains. He would go into this sort of trance state, and for my daughter, that's colouring, and for me, it's jigsaws. So we all have those sort of things where you can let your brain just go off and just process all of the stuff that's happening. Another thing that I've got on the side at the minute is I bought 4 Spanish oranges, and I'm going to slice them up and put them in the oven to dry them out for making decorations with. Something that we do that's really, really simple. And another homemade decoration we do every year is we pop popcorn and we put those on strings, and we all really love doing that as well. Nice, just really hark back to many years gone by where that might have been the only decoration, that and paper chains. We don't do paper chains, but we could do. It's on a similar vein. All of those things, the stringing of popcorn takes ages. It takes a whole evening, but it feels so lovely to have those on the tree. And the same with the oranges. The smell is just divine. It's so gorgeous. Another thing that we do is we change up. We've got a Grimm's celebration ring, so I change that up for the season, add in all of the winter decorations and then the Christmas ones as well. We've only got a couple of wintry things, but that always feels really, really nice to keep that in the mood. And then we have the advent calendar. This is something I bought a while ago, and we have a Grappat advent calendar. We had one last year, and they are the perfect thing for my kids in the phase of life that they are, and for me. I love it. So it's a big box full of little boxes, and every box is one box that you open every day, and inside is a little piece of Grappat. So if you don't know what Grappat is, it's a company that make lots of lovely tiny little wooden things, basically. And we just had the most fun with this last year. There's a little booklet that comes with it. It suggests traditions, things to bake, little craft activities for every day. And it's just like the perfect wind down after a day at school. And it's just so gorgeous. And we remember to do it every single day. And it really just kept us in that kind of soul nourishing advent. It was the most soul nourishing advent calendar ever, because the little Grappat pieces are just the most lovely little thing to hold because somebody has made them or painted them or both, and really thought about it with intention and put them in this box, and it's just filled with so much joy and love and thought. And it's so nice. It's so different from something that's made in a factory. And I haven't really had the wherewithal, energy, wisdom, creativity, I don't know, one of those or all of those, to figure out making my own version of an advent calendar. And I know there's so many different ways of doing it. I love the idea of doing a book every single day, but I think my kids are probably a little bit old for that, especially my son who's 8. I think he's probably a bit like, yeah, we've read all of those, Mum. So I don't think the joy would be there if I wrapped all the books, but that's certainly an option. I love all of our Christmas books that we've got. They just sort of come out and land and get taken around the house for a whole month. And they try and keep them actually realistically through to February if they can, because they love having them out. All the Christmas books are just so lovely. I just would try and stay away from like a really basic one, unless that brings you tremendous amounts of joy and you want to do it with intention. But yeah, we sort of warned everybody off buying us one because we just sort of don't really need it. I love that there are so many different kinds of advent calendar, but at the beginning of this podcast where I said, companies just leap on to where they realise they can sell you something at this time of year, because advent calendars can be really, really fun, but I think it's also gone a little bit mad. But also for me, my favourite way of gifting to my family and friends is to give them something for Advent, because it's such a special thing for me. So, I don't know. I love Advent calendars, and there are so many options to choose from. Just don't get suckered into like the first one, and be intentional about how you do it, I guess, as with all these things. I think Christmas can be a really wonderful time for reflection as we think about how the last year's gone, how we want the next year to look, what things we want to burn from the last year, what things didn't go well, and how we can move forward into the next year, into the next phase of our life as someone we want to be, someone we're proud of being, someone who really loves living the life that they're in and who's really content. One of the things that we really love to do is to fill the Christmas season as well with this sort of feeling of gratitude, feeling of generosity, a feeling of giving outwards, and really just remembering what it is to be a human. Lots of those slow things that I've mentioned, lots of those warm things really invite us to really long conversations and board games and lots of walks, again with more conversation, and lots of time for journaling and wearing woolen socks and reading really interesting books, because the majority of our family read non-fiction rather than fiction. So there's always a lot of learning to be had in this house. And we just, especially those weeks off of school at the end of the year, it's just time to pause, to reflect. The kids don't have loads of toys at Christmas. They're sort of a bit old for like toys, if that makes sense. So there just is a lot of time to just slow down and do those slower things with each other and spend time together. So that is kind of everything that I've already done and planned to do. And I told you is really, really simple. That might sound like a lot of stuff, but I've really, really spaced it out. And if we get to it and I don't want to do a thing, I won't do a thing. I don't have a to-do list for this time of year. I just don't write one. I have an idea list, maybe, some ideas and suggestions. And that's something I want to share with you, actually. There's a lovely free resource on an Instagram account called @SlowScenesOfHome. I'll make sure this is linked in the podcast episode description, and it's a lovely resource. It's a homeschool study resource actually, but I find it to be really, really helpful even though we're not homeschooling at the minute. It's a slow living 6-week family study for Advent, Christmas and Epiphany, and I printed off sort of like every 7th page because it's got like this really good overview of menu ideas, craft ideas, games and films and things to watch, things to read, and I just found it really, really helpful to have all those slow living ideas printed off, and then I've sort of just got it on a clipboard in the kitchen so that if the kids sort of feel a bit antsy or bored and they need something to do, which I don't think will happen but might happen twice, I have stuff for them to do, stuff for them to focus on, things to remember to sort of ground me, bring me back to where I want to be, and to remember that this is about it being a soul nourishing Advent, about it really filling everyone up, about it being about the right sort of things. And yeah, I found this just a really helpful resource. And then, as I do think this will be my last episode of the year, and I shall come back to you in January full of pizzazz and joy and excitement and feeling super duper nourished, I wanted to end this year with a traditional Irish blessing. I have this lovely book of earth prayers from around the world, and this is one that highlights for Advent, so I thought I'd read it for you. It's quite long, so bear with me, but I think it's beautiful. May the blessing of light be on you, light without and light within. May the blessed sunshine shine on you and warm your heart till it glows like a great peat fire, so that the stranger may come and warm himself at it, and also a friend. And may the light shine out of the two eyes of you, like a candle set in the two windows of a house, bidding the wanderer come in out of the storm. And may the blessings of the rain be on you, the soft, sweet rain. May it fall upon your spirit so that all the little flowers may spring up and shed their sweetness on the air. And may the blessings of the great rains be on you. May they beat upon your spirit and wash it fair and clean, and leave there many a shining pool where the blue of heaven shines, and sometimes a star. And may the blessing of the earth be on you, the great round earth. May you ever have a kindly greeting for those you pass as you're going along the roads. May the earth be soft under you when you rest upon it, tired at the end of a day, and may it rest easy over you when at the last you lay out under it. May it rest so lightly over you that your soul may be off from under it quickly and up and off and on its way to God. And now may the Lord bless you all and bless you kindly. Thank you so much for listening today. I really hope you have a fantastic Advent season, a wonderful Christmas, and any other celebrations you'll be celebrating this month. Thank you for being with me over the course of this year. There's lots of lovely episodes that if you haven't caught up on, you've got a whole month to catch up on them. I really hope that you have a wonderful day and a wonderful Advent. Thank you. Bye.